I'm here from the University of California, Davis. We have an institute dedicated to basically what this meeting is all about. What should we eat in the 21st century, and what should farmers grow? And our goal is to understand health in sufficiently mechanistic, detailed terms that we can draw a line of sight from an individual's health to an agricultural trait that farmers can value. So, like Carter, we were struck by the disparity in innovation, both in diet and health, and we began to ask, why was that true? We should be the healthiest people in human history, and in some respects we are. Roger and Jering are enjoying the sports they learned as children. They're both over 100. Some people are enjoying the most spectacular health in human history, but most of us, has already been pointed out, are not. Overweight, diabetic, hypertensive, and it's diet. So, what happened? I'm going to basically throw three systems under the bus. Apologies, I'm an academic scientist. Science, you're going in. Industry and policy. So science. For 70 years, we have not been studying health. We have been studying in excruciating detail the diseases of middle-aged rich men. Full stop. The industry is not selling food, they're selling brands. And that has led to the idea of good foods and bad foods. It's nonsense. You are healthy because of the entire diet you eat. And there is nobody in essence, diet business. And finally, policy. This is the best they can do. You're all the same. Eat from a pyramid. So we decided to take a different approach, and on the basis of that, we predict that diet is genuinely about to undergo disruptive change. And I'll talk about how we got to that opinion and what we think is going to come from it. So, if we're not going to study the diseases of middle-aged rich men, what are we going to study? So we went back and asked evolution, what evolved to be food? And there's really only one thing. This remarkable idea that came actually quite late in evolution, mammalian milk. We study human milk, mothers and babies. This is in essence an entire diet. Mothers dissolve themselves to make a complete, comprehensive diet for their infant. It's a model of sustainability. Everything costs a mother. It's also a remarkable example of food diet for health. If anything in that milk provides an advantage to that infant relative to the competition with its peers in terms of its health and prevention of disease, it's hard to imagine anything under stronger selective pressure through evolution. So this Darwinian engine of diet and health has been going generation after generation for 200 million years. And we've been deconstructing that process. So let me give you one example of many that illustrate just how powerful milk is in teaching us how diet is going to change. So we're taking human milk apart. Remember, sustainability, it's costing the mother. Everything, including the water, is costing that mother. So imagine our surprise when we realize that the third most abundant component in human milk is undigestible. Why would mothers dissolve themselves to make poop? So, what are they? The great advantage at the University of California, Davis, we don't, in essence, do work as individual scientists. We gather entire teams. Carlito Labrilla heads a team of dozens of chemists analyzing complex biopolymers. He's the best in the world. Took human milk apart. What is this undigestible matter? Basically, it's carbohydrate. Sugar polymers held together with stereospecific linkages, and babies can't get the sugars because they can't release them by those glycosidic bonds. They go right through the baby. So, why would mothers do that? What's it for? So our first thought was, well, maybe it's feeding bacteria. So again, recruit David Mills, world-famous microbiologist, heading up an entire team. Do the oligosaccharides in human milk feed bacteria? No. He tried bacterium after bacterium after bacterium. Bacteria can't get access to those sugars any more than babies can. And then he found one. Oh, what a surprise, in the intestine of a breastfed baby. And when we looked at the genome of this bacteria, it encoded genes, enzymes, to break down every single one of those glycosidic bonds. It grows faster on human milk oligosaccharides than glucose. What a remarkable idea of evolution. Mothers are literally recruiting another life form to babysit their baby. And they're making sure this is the specific life form that succeeds because that's the only one they feed. So what have we learned? We're not alone. The bacteria in us are really important. Human milk contains more complex oligosaccharides than protein. From an evolutionary perspective, it's as important to feed the bacteria in the baby as the baby. So we then began to look for customers in a classic Carter model. Who would need it? Premature babies. They're born by cesarean section. That means a sterile birth. They don't have the right bacteria. Neonatologists put them in an incubator and they begin to acquire bacteria from the hospital. This is not the way you'd like to start life. So we asked a simple question. If you give these babies back the right bacteria, do they return, in essence, to the natural state? Absolutely. In fact, it's quite spectacular. We then launched a company just to give the bacteria to these premature infants. But then we began to realize, in fact, looked around at babies, and it turns out the vast majority of babies around the world have lost this bacteria. Antibiotics, C-sections, hygiene have had wonderful consequences, saved millions of lives of mothers and babies. But they've had one unintended consequence. They've eliminated this bacteria. So we asked a simple question. What do babies look like today? Well, this is, in essence, the bacteria in the intestine of a breastfed baby. This is a normal birth, vaginally delivered, full-term breastfed baby in Davis, California. And it's full of all sorts of enteropathogens, enterobacteria, really bacteria you would not want in a baby. If you give them the bacteria, in essence, that was naturally evolved for these babies, Bifidobacteria longum, subspecies infantis, within 48 hours, over 90% of the bacteria in that baby are this strain of bacteria. And it persists. As long as the mother breastfed that baby, that bacterial community was dominated by this protective bacteria. When she stops breastfeeding, then the bacteria goes away. Again, we wish we had invented that. We didn't. This is how, in essence, babies have worked for millennia. So what does it do for the babies? It's spectacular. It protects them first and foremost from pathogens. It occupies all of the surface of the babies. It cleans out all food. It, in essence, lowers the pH. It nourishes the baby. It educates the immune system and its metabolism. It's really a partner, a very appropriate babysitter for that baby. This is a poopogram. The upper figure is what's coming out of a breastfed baby that doesn't have the right bacteria. Because there's nothing to consume those oligosaccharides, they're coming out of the baby all day. Breastfed babies without the right bacteria have 7 to 10 diapers a day. This is not really the way nature intended. As soon as they get the bacteria, the oligosaccharides disappear, they make more bacteria, and the baby has 1 diaper a day. It doesn't need that rocket science diagnostics. It's pretty clear. So we realize that this is going to be a very important aspect of the health of babies, in essence, the bugs of health. The next question, of course, can we do this for everybody? Evolution found a very, in essence, ingenious strategy for babies. Can you do it for adults? The problem is the complexity. We now know that the microbial community in babies requires the right bacteria and the right food for that bacteria such that that food is converted into bacteria and metabolites that bacteria. That's how a complex ecosystem works. In order to do that for adults, we have to know what they're eating, what are the polysaccharides, the sugar polymers in their diet, what are those polysaccharides, what bacteria could digest them, convert them into bacteria, and would produce beneficial metabolites. At least we know where we're going. The problem is there's no way to get there. It's not possible for science to sequence polysaccharides today. They're too complicated. But Carlito Labriglia has solved that problem. We now have a library of 1,000 foods in which we know the sequence of polysaccharides. So we need to know the food for the bacteria in sugar and glycosidic bond detail. We also have to know what bacteria would feed on those polysaccharides. And David Mills and his team have built the library of bacteria that map to those complex polysaccharides that we all eat. And we know the metabolism of those bacteria so that we can map the polysaccharides in the diet to the bacteria and what they make. All right, what are the implications to agriculture? Well, today we don't pay any attention to the bacteria in us, much less do we feed them. Evolution decided by selective pressure that it's as important to feed the bacteria in a baby as it is the baby. So taking the baby as an example, we're going to have to eat about 10% of our calories as complex selective carbohydrate. That's a big opportunity for agriculture. We estimate about 1 trillion calories a day worldwide. Sounds like it's horrible. We're going to be eating bacteria, food for bacteria. Well, maybe not. So if you look at the most successful food materials through human history, chocolate, coffee, wine, beer, bread, cheese, yogurt, kimchi, they're not commodities. They're a combination of commodity plus microorganism. And together they make the food more stable, more nourishing, more delicious. So our food supply is going to get more stable, more nourishing, and more delicious. And we've launched, in essence, a company to do that as well. All right. So there are going to be disruptive changes. But what's the big opportunity, in essence, presented by all this work? Food will become a knowledge industry. Today, it's a brand industry. It's going to become a knowledge industry. Because you've already heard that we have these digital capabilities to build knowledge and then make it individually accessible to consumers. Knowledge-based industry, well, turns out you all know what a knowledge-based industry looks like. Google Maps, a massive database in the publicly accessible cloud. Every street, every road, every bike path, all of the lanes, everything in an accessible map that your device can access to routinely. It's personal. You only know or need to know exactly where you are and what the road conditions are. It's dynamic. It tells you the traffic right now. And it's annotated. That's the business model. If you're selling coffee, Google Maps will tell you where the next coffee is down the road. So, what's the value proposition of Google Maps? Where am I? Where would I like to be? How do I get there? Let's move that to health. What's my health status now? What would I like it to be? How do I get there? And the knowledge-based industry delivers the products, in essence, diets, that help me get there. What will we get? Well, first and foremost, you've already heard about it. Precision. We'll get the things we want. And we can already see how that's revolutionizing businesses. The Nestle company was a basically freeze-dried instant coffee business, Nescafe. And then they came up with this technology that actually even Nestle said, this is not for us. This is not a business model for us. Nespresso. It revolutionized coffee. And the only value proposition is coffee the way I like it, when I like it. So we will also get prevention by being able to, in essence, provide very specific food materials to us and our bacteria and our various systems. We will be able to deliver prevention so that diabetes, hypertension, obesity, these problems will, in essence, be solved. That's the good news. The bad news is you're going to have to give it away for free. And the reason why is, what are people going to pay for diseases they're not going to get? We already know. Nothing. So where's the value going to come from? What will consumers pay for? What they're going to pay for is a tremendous change in health itself. Today, health is defined as disease not. It's a one-tailed test. And this is a spectacular, in essence, problem in imagination. Our health is, as humans, amongst the most elastic of any organism. We respond spectacularly to all sorts of environmental cues, particularly our diet. And we know diet influences our health, our physiology, our metabolism, our immunity, because of how badly we've screwed it up. We're hypertensive, we're diabetic, we're inflamed, we're allergic. And diet did it. But now we have to think, what if you could control your health? And you could guide your health exactly the way you wanted. What would you pay for that? And that's performance. That's all of the things that we would like to be able to do. Energy, metabolism, we don't want to be obese and prioritizing storage. We want to prioritize play and be energized and want to play when we want. We, in essence, don't want to be anxious and depressed. We want to be able to control when we remember. Our muscle memory, right? We'd like to learn to play an instrument when we're 60. Right? Muscle memory is wonderfully accessible at 11. I'd like it accessible now. All possible because of the elasticity of human phenotype in response to diet. So Google Maps did not transform the roads. It made destinations accessible. That was a big change for Google Maps. You can go where you want, and now you increasingly know where you want to go. So personal diet management won't transform foods. It'll transform the human, in essence, phenotype. We will open performance the way each individual wants it. So for all the mums, babies who made this possible, thank you.